So apparently there is people saying that there's going to be a new episode of Stranger Things called um, the Conformity Gate. Because apparently in this theory, and this is what fans are saying, apparently in this theory, Vecna is still alive and everything was a lie the last episode and yada yada was in the real ending and that Max is unconscious or something like that. And they point out a bunch of things that the people saw on the final episode of Stranger Things that came out in December 31st of last year. And in all honesty, like I get it. I'm sad the show ended. I'm really sad. I enjoyed the series. I enjoyed the show. I could the season 5 be stronger than it actually was? Absolutely, but like to say that the ending was fake, then you haven't been watching enough movies for your whole life, you know? Just imagine if I had watched when I was younger, and I will use, for example, the movie Ghostbusters. Because the idea and concepts of different dimensions creeping through Earth is not new. Let me put it this way: the first movie that had a gate being open and then being closed was Ghostbusters. And in the movie Ghostbusters, we had that the main boss, Gozer, open a portal to come to Earth. And the portal was open, he arrived on Earth, and the Ghostbuster went to confront him. And when the Ghostbuster were confronting him, they realized that the proton packs did nothing. And out of a sudden, Ghoster asked to choose a form for the destruction. And Ray, we should think about it, choose the shape of Marshmallow Man. So we have a giant Marshmallow Man, a giant Kaiju, just like we had in Stranger Things, trying to destroy New York City. In this case, we had the giant kaiju being the Mind Flayer in a physical form of what seems to be like a giant spider, and controlled by Vecna, pretty much. And in this case, it was in Dimension X. It was not in New York City, but it was about to come into Hawkins, Indiana, to cause chaos. You know, if that would have happened, it would have been fantastic. Let me tell you that. But we know that we almost had that happen in season. I think it was season 3 when we had the Mind Flare actually coming into the real world where people die and all their bodies join together to form a physical form of the Mind Flare in planet Earth. Um, so so yeah, so you have Giant Kaiju, dimensional portals, so it's very similarities in there. Now the Ghostbuster defeated Ghoster by Commander doing what Egon said not to do, which was like if you combine the streams, you could it would be bad. It would cause an explosion. It caused an explosion. The portal got closed. Ghoster disappeared. We don't know if they probably were not able to kill Ghoster. They assume that they did, but they never killed Ghoster. Ghoster just disappeared pretty much. No news whether Ghoster was defeated or not. They prevented him from say keeping that portal open. The portal was closed. Same thing that happens here in Stranger Things. So the portal is closed. We know that that's pretty much what they did. They closed the portal. No entity or whatsoever from Dimension X could cross to Earth, at least as far as we know. Uh, but yes, that should have maybe some other things unanswered, and we know that some of the characters were possessed by the Mind Flayer. Will is still technically possessed by the Mind Flayer and could have a connection to the Mind Flayer, but we don't know how that could play out in the future, unless they do a spin-off episode. I don't know. Um, Other characters too. You know, if Will was able to keep a constant connection to the Hive after being rescued from the Upside Down, so could these kids. You know, although we know that when they were removed from the prison in the Dimension X, they coughed black particles. So yeah, the Mind Flayer is probably alive. You know. So here we have a similar explanation to what happened in Ghostbusters. You know, and it's the reason why Ghostbuster in the movie that came out a few years ago, uh, which is Afterlife, we have Gozer coming back because Gozer was never defeated. So we saw Gozer coming back. So there's a possibility that you could have the Man Flayer coming back. And that's totally fine by me because that's what storytelling is about. And yeah, a big godlike entity probably could not be defeated. So it may still be alive, and that's a possibility. But that's the beauty about the ending because the ending is very open ended. It leaves possibilities to be able to easily go back and write things from that point on to add to the new story. Not necessarily bring the characters back, but you can have possibilities, and that's a good thing when it comes to storytelling. Same with Ghostbusters because if you look at the movie Ghostbusters, apparently it seems that ghosts are coming to Earth was what was causing all the ghosts in New York City to appear more often. However, we had a second movie, and then in this case we had a different character, a different villain called Vigo, which was in a portrait, and that's how they were able to like do the second movie from the first movie. And now, not only that, they also did spin-off like the TV series, the cartoons, the Real Ghostbusters and the Extreme Ghostbuster cartoons too. And in all those cases, it seems that it was because of a gate being opened. Uh, but again, that's the beauty about leaving things unopened. You could play with other things too. With leaving things open, and that it helps make it easier for writers to write more story based on that universe. So I personally enjoyed the final episode 8 of Stranger Things. I think it was a great ending to the series. In my opinion, it did what it needed to do. It didn't went over the top, it didn't went too specific. Not everything has to be explained, to a point that you need an explanation to see what happened to some of the characters. I don't need that. Uh, but it did put an ending to a series, in my opinion, that was beautifully done. I enjoyed the ending. If you want to believe that it was just all at the end of the campaign, that's a possibility. I would be okay with that too, because that actually makes sense. What if everything was just a big campaign and everything that happened in the series was just because of them playing Dungeons and Dragons? Fantastic, great storytelling. Um, that would make sense too. Put um. So yeah, so I do think the ending was chapter 8. I don't think there's any new episode dropping out soon. So if it is and somehow we get another episode, that I'll be surprised. But honestly, I think the series is done, and you all just feel bad because you don't want the series to end, and I get it. But the series is over. Stranger Things ended, and whether you like it or not, episode 8 was the final episode. Anyway, that's all I got. Bye.